So today, our guest is someone who understands the importance of empathy and has immense care for everyone in the company. She is always listening to those that are hiring and those that are applying for jobs, looking for ways to bring them together and acts as a bridge. Let's welcome Jenny on 10 Minutes of Hiring Wisdom. Hi, Jenny. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm doing good. Thanks so much. That was so kind.
Of course. So, Jenny, can you tell us about how your life has been since the pandemic? Just because, we'd love to hear how your life has been going.
Yes. Well, we only have 10 minutes, so I will not bore you with the details. But the last year has been, like for many people, really crazy. For me, I actually had a baby during the pandemic. And so I have a 1-year-old, which is really exciting and also an interesting experience to go through during a pandemic. And I was laid off. I was rehired from my job that I work at now, and so it's been a crazy year, but I've learned so much, and I'm so grateful to be here today and be able to talk to you about hiring and giving some folks advice on how they can find what's next for them.
Of course. First, congratulations on your baby. What's the baby's name? Just curious.
Yeah, his name's Phoenix.
Phoenix. So Phoenix, if you ever hear this in the future, your mom's here talking to guests and she's sharing her wisdom. So you must be really proud. So Jenny, can you tell us, you've had a lot of recruiting experience. Where are you currently working, and how exactly has your work been?
Yeah, I currently work at a company called Visco. They are an app, and everything they do is centered around giving people creative tools to be able to fully and freely express themselves.
Okay.
I love working.
Go ahead.
It's a super mission driven company. And one of my favorite parts about working there is that we really value diverse perspectives. So I get the opportunity to talk to all different types of people from different backgrounds, which is awesome.
Oh wow. So how did you come across this company? Was it through someone you knew? Did you just apply just curious as to how you got in?
Yeah, I started working at Visco through consulting for them, actually. So I worked at a company called Bink, which was actually recently acquired by Robinhood, which is very interesting. But I was working with them, and I worked at a lot of different startups and big companies through them as a consultant. And I started working at Visco and just fell in love with the people in the mission, and that's how I ended up there. And then I fell in love and essentially was offered a full-time position that I just couldn't say no to.
Well, things worked out for you. So you moved from consulting to recruiting. Why the transition? Why did you decide to go from consulting to recruiting itself?
That's a great question. Consulting was so great to be able to go in and make recommendations, really be able to hire quickly and optimize for goals that the business had. But it was very transactional. And I also didn't get the chance to stay at those companies for like more than a year. So some of the recruiting challenges that you face with the business and some longer term recruiting projects, I wanted to have experience with. So that's why I decided to join. And
Of course.
yeah.
That makes sense, especially with the baby and everything. I think stability would be good.
Mhm.
So I can see that where you were coming from. So I'm glad things worked out for you. So Jenny, you've had a lot of experience with companies such as Airbnb, Bink, and according to you, what are some challenges companies face when they're hiring for the right talent specifically?
Yeah, there's so much we can dig into there. I think in terms of tech, from that lens, it's a really competitive market, especially in engineering, which are some of the roles that I specialize in, and leadership. So I think one, just being competitive, and compensation is always a factor. So that's a challenge I think many startups face when we're competing against big FANG companies, right? Facebooks and Googles and Apples of the world. Also, another challenge that I think the tech industry faces right now is just lack of diversity in hiring. Oftentimes, there's not processes built in place to attract and hire diverse talent. And so I think companies have the right intentions, but they're trying to hire very fast. They have aggressive hiring goals, right? Maybe they just got a round of fundraising and they need to scale or double in the next 2 years. And with that, sometimes when hiring fast, those diverse groups end up being left out and not prioritized or put in the funnel. And that contributes to the systemic problems and challenges that we see today. So I think that's a big challenge and opportunity for tech companies with hiring and being able to build out more intentional processes around building up their companies with diverse perspectives and talent, which ultimately leads to just a better, more dynamic, and more profitable workforce.
That makes sense. And do you think like the COVID situation, the pandemic situation helped in like helping in building more diverse teams, specifically because more companies are open to diverse work fields, like people all over the world? Like, do you think, as in like, was that similar for your company?
Yeah, that's such a great insight. I do think it has helped. I think that primarily in tech, like we think of it as like this bubble that lives in these key cities, San Francisco, New York, Seattle. And with our company specifically, and a lot of other companies, when the pandemic hit, we had to be very flexible and be able to adapt to that. So we very quickly went remote and are now a remote company. Eventually, we'll be like a hybrid company, but we're able to operate in almost every state. And like a lot of other companies, that's really opened up the pool to be able to specifically source and reach out to diverse candidates and to candidates with different interesting backgrounds that maybe normally we wouldn't have been able to because they just weren't in like the bubble that we were able to pick from.
Of course, that makes as in like I mean it makes sense, and I'm glad that things were smooth for you because a lot of companies weren't as lucky, especially with managing people from different states and everything. But are you guys open to global hiring? Like, are you looking for people that could work from you from different countries, for instance, at like similar rates or something like that?
Currently, we're not. We're primarily hiring, or we're only hiring in the United States. I think
Hmm.
there's legality and kind of some red tape that we haven't crossed, being a startup. But yeah, I know that a lot of companies have transitioned to remote. Some companies haven't, and I think that they're just missing out on really great talent. Especially when we look at productivity and the fact that a lot of times like productivity doesn't change when we work remote. We know that now, being in the pandemic, for a year plus at this point. So we've really been able to come together, and it does have its challenges, I think, especially with culture and recreating what that looks like when you can't
Hmm.
have coffee with someone or pass them, when you're walking out of the office. But there's really creative ways that you can connect that. So yeah.
Of course. Well, if you're in the US and if you're looking for a job with Jenny's company specifically, you can reach out to me and I could forward you to Jenny. Thank you so much, Jenny, just for sharing your insights and loads of love to your baby Phoenix. He isn't like he's in the right hand. So thank you so much for coming on as a guest.
Thank you so much.
Of course.